Recently, I got one task from my manager that we have one .NET project, and in that .NET project, I have to implement the identity. So, with the use of identity scaffolding, I have successfully implemented that. But when I run that project, I got one issue in that, and the issue was that my login page is continuously getting low. So, due to that, I was not able to log into that site as well. So, have you ever idea about this any issue? Hi, I think most of the people have faced this issue whenever they are implementing identity to their existing project. So in this video, I'm going to tell you about that, why, due to which reason you are facing this issue and how you can resolve that. Hello everyone, my name is Manoj Jadeja. I'm working as a senior software engineer at IT consultancy. In this video, I'm going to tell you that how you can resolve that error. Yeah. So I have a one project. Let me run this as this was my existing project, and with the use of identity scaffolding I have added the identity in that project. So same as you, I am getting the same error whenever I am going to the login page. So now what is the main reason behind this? So the actual reason behind this error is that we are using the login page. Let me first go to the login page where we have a login page. Okay, in pages, yeah, here we have a login page, right? So now here you can see that in this our login page we are using the password sign in async method, and that is from the sign in manager. So one thing you guys have to clear in your mind, that whenever you are working with the HTTP context or with the sign in manager, at that time inbuilt the some coding will be there in sign in manager. With the use of HTTP context, it will set your cookies after the authentication process. So I hope one thing is clear, that whenever you are using the sign in manager, and whenever you are using sign in manager, there will be a some backend process which is using the HTTP context to set your cookies. This is one thing is concerned. Now second question will be in your mind, that what, how it will affect this particular page. So the now thing is that in this we are working as a, we are working or we are developing this project in the Blazor. In Blazor we have a one render mode, and that is the interactive server. What is the actual behavior of an interactive server render mode? That when the initial we will get the call, that will be using the HTTP, afterward all processing or the all interaction between that page will be done by with the use of a SignalR process, we can say. So it will create a one Blazor circuit, we can say, and with the use of that circuit it will interact with the server. So only at the initial time there will be a one HTTP call will be there, afterwards that call will be cancelled and SignalR will be going through. So as we are now clear with that, our page is in this particular component, our page is using a interactive render mode. Before that we have clear that sign in manager is using the HTTP context in the background. Now the thing is that HTTP context have to set some cookies, and to set that particular cookies it have access for the HTTP. Once this HTTP context have a use of an HTTP protocol, then and then it can store particular cookies or it can set particular cookies. So now concern might be the issue will be clear in your mind, that our page is interactive server. So at the only initial time we are just getting the HTTP call, rest we are not getting the HTTP call. So whenever we are using the HTTP context, there will be, you will be getting the error at the time of interactive server render mode. So the now thing is that I am clear that now how this error is getting generated. that my sign in manager is using HTTP context in the background, and due to that, while setting HTTP context will set the authentication, or we can say cookies, into the our particular browser. At that time it need a HTTP, but as we are using the interactive server render mode, I am not able to getting that, and due to that I am getting this error. So the now might be one question will be in your mind, that why my page is getting refreshed. So there is one logic that we have written here. Here you can see inside we have account layout. So in account layout we have written that HTTP context, and if HTTP context is null, we will refresh this particular page. So now they have, whenever you are generating identity, they will give this particular page, and in this page you can see this commented out code as well. So if this code runs, we are currently rendering in the interactive mode. So there is a no HTTP context, right? The identity pages need to set cookies, so they requires an HTTP context. To achieve this, we must transition back to from interactive mode to the server render page. Server render pages, that means with the static render page, we can say that page which have a no any render mode, we can say as a static render mode, right? So now might be one more question in your mind, that in this page, bro, I haven't mentioned any render mode. So still why I'm getting this error, that as I haven't mentioned any interactive or the any render mode, that means my page should be work with the static render mode. The concern is that whenever you have created the project, at that time you have selected the global option for the rendering mode. So if you have selected the render mode as a global, so in your app razor pages, there will be a one route. On in that route, this line will be default added when you have created the project. So that means that whatever pages running in your project will be a default in the interactive server page. So the now thing is that now one question in your mind, that I want to give a static render mode into the my particular that login page, or I want to give to the null render mode over there. So now the thing is that there is no any method using that you can give a null to the particular render mode in this component. So now what you have to do, that with the only thing is that with the use of an app razor, here is a possible that you can give a null render mode. Rest there is no possibility to give null render mode. Let's I am trying here to give null render mode, right? Render mode null. So here you can see you will get an error. So to set this particular, we have to go to the app razor page, and in app razor page we have to write some logic that it will prevent that my login related pages or my identity related pages will be a in the, I can say, static render mode. So let me define code here, that private render mode is an I component render mode, we can say. So I component render mode, and we want to assign the null. So let me define the null. Now component render mode, and I have to write some logic here, that if my, I can say that in this particular page, app razor page, there will be a no any interactive render mode or any kind of mode. So this is, we can say, this is the null page or the static render page. So in this particular, I will be able to get the HTTP context. So first, with the use of cascading parameter, I have to get that. So let's say public HTTP context, right? And I have to define the, I can say, cascading parameters. That as we are already aware about this, that HTTP context is default set by one of the parent component of a Blazor. So at the initial time, server will send this HTTP context by default with the cascading parameter. So we can get that. So now with the use of HTTP context, I have to, I have or I have or I able to identify that which page I am getting over here. So as we are aware about the HTTP context, the HTTP context have a data about the request, response, and user authentication and all. So in this case, my HTTP context have a data related to request. So in this request, what I will check, that I will first check the path of a particular component. So in that particular component, as we have already seen that our all the identity related pages are getting started with the account. So in this we want to prevent that whatever pages are getting started with the slash account, we want to give the static render mode to that particular page. So how we can give that? So let me check path, and I can do that start with a segment. Which kind of segment? So that will be a account, and here I can see that if it is a start with a account, I have to give null rest. I will assign the interactive server more. So here I have written the logic, and this logic I have to give to this render mode as a dynamic. So now I have successfully implemented these two lines of code, that whenever I am getting request to this page, first I will check that from that particular request I will get the path, and I will check that this is a path which I am getting from as a segment as a slash account, or that which I am getting from the identity part. So I have to assign the null, rest I can give as an interactive server. So now let me run this project, and then we will see that our issue is resolved or not. Yeah, so now you can see that my login page is not getting refreshed continuously. So I hope you guys are clear about this issue, that why it is getting generated whenever you are adding your code with the use of scaffolding, and how you can resolve that error as well. So this was all about that. Thank you.